Farmers today are facing rising costs, volatile markets, and extreme weather. The Better Way to Farm podcast digs into strategies to help you take control of farm inputs and maximize profit so your farm can thrive for generations. Remember to take advantage of our free resources at abetterwaytofarm.com. Now, from America's Heartland, here's your host.
Hello, everybody. I want to welcome you all to this episode of the A Better Way to Farm podcast, where we have one goal and one goal only, guys, and that is help farmers like you improve yields and increase profit. Guys, I'm really excited for today. Everything we do here is based off of education. Everything we do is to bring a little bit of value to help you guys make better decisions, whether you choose to work with us or not. Make better decisions on your farm. And that's what we're going to be talking about on today's episode. We've got a lot of stuff we're actually probably going to be covering. But before I get into that, I'm really excited because we've got a guest on here. And it's not going to be a gentleman that I'm going to be interviewing because he's been working with the system almost as long as I have. He's done some amazing things on his farm, drastically improved his profitability, drastically improved just the way that his farm works and his yield, but he's done so in a very strategic manner. You've heard him before on here, but this is just, we're excited to share about an experience that both of us had recently. So guys, I want to welcome my dear friend, Andy. Good to have you, bud.
Good morning, Mr. Sam. It's always a pleasure getting to visit my favorite team member from A Better Way to Farm.
We have fun. We have fun together. So I don't know, man. You're outstanding in your field currently. You're out in the soybean field. I was cleaning out a grain bin, and so I'm hiding in my basement in the air conditioning. I don't know about you, but every single time I clean it out, it's always 1,000,000 degrees outside. So I should probably adjust my marketing plan to handle that. So, but how have things been going, man? How's the year been going for you?
So far, the year's been, fantastic. It is a balmy, hot week. And one thing I can be thankful, we're just starting to shoot a few tassels here. I'm in southeast Minnesota. For some of you guys that don't know, we plant a little longer corn than normal. I would say we're 101 to 106 days. So a lot of guys in the area are more in that lower 90s bracket. But, you don't know until the year turns around for you, but I'm kind of glad we went with a little longer day corn this year. So hopefully we get into a little cooler pollination week. But we're just all walking some beans here this morning and awesome branching. We foliar fed these babies last week, and man, the branching, the pods, we need to get out there and do some fungicide. We just hope for some cooler temps to get it done.
We're really kind of with you in that. I'm from, we farm in north central Iowa. I'm just about an hour 40 just southwest of where you guys are at. And we are in full pollination mode, right in the heat, but we've got adequate moisture, so we're certainly hopeful. But yeah, we'll be fungiciding here, doing some and throwing some other stuff, to help push yield. We've got some really great opportunity out there and potential out there as well. So right from the gate, man. And so this is going to be, like I said, not an interview, guys, but we wanted to just have more of a conversation. You get two farmers together. What do we like to talk about? Farming. And so that's just what we're going to be doing here today. Just right off the bat, you made a comment, Andy. I know you've had some tremendous results on your farm, but you said that, you kind of go for the later hybrids over the earlier, which is common in your area. What's kind of the decision? Like, what's your reasoning, I guess, behind that? What have you found that's been working?
Yeah. So, well, if you don't have your own dryer, I'd probably steer you more towards that earlier hybrid, but we do have a couple drying bins here. And one thing that we've just noticed is if you want to push the little higher yield, you just got to crank up them a few days on the corn hybrids and then feed them. A lot of these longer day hybrids, especially in our area, if you feed them, they'll flex, they'll do their thing. And that's one thing I've always liked doing is just seeing what can you get out of this crop. We're always learning. We don't know everything. But and every year, we're always trying something new, something different. And one thing that we did last year, just as a trial on our corn, is we implemented a later wide drop pass. So we run really high magnesium soils here on our farm. We're 32% base saturation mag. It's high. So potassium just ties up on us. Before we started with Rod there in A Better Way to Farm, we were blowing on, 300-400 pounds of potassium and MAP a year, and along with our nitrogen and EMS. And it's just like, man, our yields just stayed stagnant. We were around that 180, 90 bushel corn. We grew pretty good beans, 65, 70 bushel beans. But man, the corn, we just could not break that 200 as a farm average. We'd have fields that did it, but it just seemed like, splitting up a lot of those applications, potassium sulfate has been a big one on our farm, liquid KTS. So we have a product called Sidekick that we use. And what we did last year is we did 2 gallons at the planter, 2 gallons on the first wide drop pass, and then 2 gallons on that late wide drop pass, just right before VT. just right before flag leaf there on corn. I mean, and when we did that last year, that late pass, we put 12 gallons of 32 in with it and 2 gallons of the KTS, a little bit of boron. We've seen 34 bushel increases on just that last late season wide drop pass. And I think just feeding that crop late, we've beaten that drum. You hear it all over social media, but that late season nutrition, man, it's a big deal. So this year we did that on every acre. That's pretty excited for this season. Although then we did get some hail early on. I know a few of you boys too. We hit that hail at about V4 corn, and today you'd hardly be able to tell. It is a little bit behind, but if we didn't have that, I would have been super stoked.
Absolutely. We touched on a lot of things that I actually wanted to have a conversation about here. And so we're going to kind of go dive back into it. But that's something that's so cool, is getting to transition to have, you've got your hands on learning from the farm, but we also pair that with the education. And like what I said when I started this episode, everything that we do, we base education first, because we want to enable you guys, us as farmers, to make better decisions, right? To take back control of our operation. And I believe that without a doubt, we do the best of that than anybody really in the industry. And Andy, we just came from an opportunity for that. So many of you listening know that we have our fundamentals of agronomy courses. Okay. And we have those all over the winter, every year, 15 plus, and an amazing program. If you haven't been, get there. If you've been there only once or twice, get there again this off season. You learn something new every single time. How many do you think you've been to, Andy, in the last 2 years, would you say?
Oh man, I don't know, 40.
Yeah, just a lot. And you pick something up and you can take that, just like what you said there, man, was you take what you learn and you take that and then you implement it, right? And then to get better bushel gains. It doesn't always work, but again, we want to lead with education. And so we just, for the first time since I've been part of the team, which has been 6 going on 7 years, we had an agronomy intensive, is what I'm going to call it, the second version. And I don't know about you, but I would agree, intense would be a good word for that, for what that course was.
Certainly.
Yeah. And I mean, it was a lot. And you came in and we dove deep into a tremendous amount of agronomics, analytics. Products were never talked about. All it was data and everything that went into the creating of the system that we use, the system that you and I have implemented on our farms to have been tremendously successful. And so I guess starting off, tell me, what was your experience, I guess, with that? What was like the one thing that really stuck out to you from that meeting that really excited you, whether it was something you learned or just a concept or proof of concept even?
Yeah.
It all starts at the fundamentals of agronomy.
That program, they make it in a way that it's very easy for us to understand. I mean, the first time that I come in on it, I'll be honest, I didn't know how to read a soil test at all. And they did a fantastic job teaching you what those numbers mean and in a way that we actually understand it.
That's my favorite part of all fundamentals of agronomy 1. When it comes to fundamentals of agronomy 2,
I mean, I'll be honest, it's super scientific. But one thing that really stuck out to me, and you're hearing this a lot on social media too, and we have a test. It's $64, Sam, through Midwest Labs?
Yeah, something around there. Yep.
Yeah, and we've had that test for 15, 20 years. And it's really a difficult test to understand. But when we talk about, the water extractable carbon, we have a score on that test, and we work with Midwest Labs. So one thing that really helped me in ProAg too, just with the farmer brain, is understanding that test and what water extractable means, your nitrogen levels, your soil health calculator. There's so many things that go into that, but that was the biggest thing that I took away from it. I mean, I pulled a couple of those tests here. I think it was right around the first year that I started, and it was really tough to understand. But that class really broke that test down for me, so in a way that I could understand it. And I'm excited to pull a few more tests now that we've done this system for 5-6 years, trying to build carbon and do all the things correctly, leaving the stalks on the field, using a stalk digester in the fall. And speaking of that, guys, if that's something that you're looking at doing this year, that last year was the first year that we did it on our farm. I got some videos, pictures I can show with anybody. But holy man, if we can get those stalks broke down, get that back into that soil profile. I mean, our corn ground last year, we pulled 250 bushel of corn off of that. And we chased that combine with that stalk digester, and it's a super simple mix. And I think I had around $10 in it. Man, this spring when we went back into it, it was just as clean as our bean fields. So I think just doing a lot of things like that and helping the farmer understand what is cooking and understanding that soil test in a way that we can understand it.
That was the biggest takeaway from the fundamentals of agronomy 2.
Yeah, absolutely. And, something that you said that I just want to point out to everybody, if you caught it, at the beginning of the conversation, Andy said he was growing 180, 190 bushel corn. And now he said last year he pulled off 250 bushel corn, which is amazing. But that brings different management requirements, i.e. residue. Residue is a big deal, guys, and we've all seen it, right? Corn on corn, you get that residue in the furrow. We've got some issues. We got some stand problems. We got some emergence issues. And we've talked about it a lot before, guys. There's a tremendous amount of nutrients, leachable potassium that gets left behind in that. And so, yes, if we want to break those down in a healthy way, not add foreign biology, but if we have a mix that can help stimulate the native biology that we already have, because I don't know about you, Bud, but I'm not smart enough to know what adding a foreign biology is going to do to the billions of microbes I already have in my teaspoon of soil. Take what you already got and then you cycle that. And then we've got more nutrients for the crop. We get better stand for the crop next year. And we're going to be cranking up that overall soil health complete test that we take from Midwest Labs, which is what you were referencing. Something that we covered in that meeting that I really enjoyed is because you see things on the farm and then you just you figure it out yourself one way or the other, right? Lessons in agriculture can be expensive, but we remember them. And so when we started on our journey, we had a lot of issues with our soils, compaction, soil pH, drainage problems, okay? And we were struggling. A lot of you have heard my story. But what we found was that first year, I was like, okay, this is a new fertility system, right? They claim it's supposed to do all of these great things. I'm going to try it. So I tried it on a lot of really difficult ground. Here's what happened. I saw some good things in some areas. There were some areas in that field to where, geez, this is the best corn we've ever raised by a mile. But we still got those low spots. We still got that yellow corn. We still have these issues, these compaction areas. And guys, we've got three components of our soil. We talked about this in our meeting. We've got our physical, we've got our chemical, and we've got our biological. Okay. And so the physical, obviously, is your porosity, your aeration, the compaction that we have going on in our soil. And I tell everybody, we are in the business here at A Better Way to Farm. We're in the business of finding and addressing your limiting factors. Guys, your physical components of your soil, if we don't have a plan to get that taken care of, I don't care how good of a fertility system is going to happen, it's going to limit your results. Because here's what happened with us is we had limited root growth and we had great corn starting off, but it did not have that foundation to really see it through. And there is a study that we talked about that I thought was really interesting. It talked about the relative productivity based off of our root depth. We talk about it all the time, right? That you open that bag of corn and it's got all of these potential bushels, right? Your relative productivity potential. And we're just in our yield reduction program. And some of us are very good at a yield reduction program. I still do some good things that help me become effective with that. But it says if your roots only go down 1 foot, then you're at 35% potential. If you can get them to go down 3 feet, you're at 75%. And if you can get them down to 6 feet, you relatively have about 100% of your field's potential. So guys, I want us to think about that, because if we've got some compaction issues where our roots are only going down 1 foot, think of all the money that we're spending on our inputs. We only get 35% of that plant's potential. It's kind of like pH, right? Is that not something we should probably look at first? And so that first year, our average didn't change. It really didn't. We had some good spots, but we still had some low spots. The average went from like a 158 to a 162. I mean, we were struggling, man. That next year, we took care of the compaction, well over 200, okay? The system was able to do its thing, to jump and bump over, 40 bushel of what we were last year. It's a system. It's not just certain products. So I know you've had some experience kind of like with an inline ripper, getting down there, taking some of the compaction layers out, haven't you, Andy?
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing. We just got to get the oxygen in the soil, man. I mean, you want to feed your microbes, that's how you do it. And in the hills of Minnesota here, no-till is really popular, and that's a path we went down for about 7 years. But in back of my mind, it always says in the Bible, "In the farmer too lazy to plow will not reap a harvest." And that always bothered me, right? But I understand why we do the no-till. we still have fields now. We'll just hit it once with the VT. I mean, it's steep, there's rock, and plant it. But we bought a Zone Commander, Brilliant Zone Commander. It's a 4-shank. At the time when I bought it, we just had a 4840 John Deere that we pulled it with. And I mean, she'd walk with it. It didn't take a ton of tractor to run the thing. But, I bought a compaction tester and I just started wandering around with it one day. And, 8 inches, we had a layer there. Once you punch through that, I mean, I could bury the stick. So I knew I had to break that 8-inch barrier. What we've been doing now, soil erosion is something that I'm still really big on. I want to minimize that as much as possible. But one thing I really like about that Zone Commander, I mean, basically it just lifts and just rolls the dirt and sets it back. And basically in your field, all you're seeing is lines. So we're getting the oxygen down in the soil, the water filtration. We're not disturbing the top a ton. So these last couple of years, man, we just hit that in the fall on the bean ground, going to corn. And then we just tap it once with the VT machine. We got a Great Plains Turbo Max. We hit it once in the spring and we plant it. We did actually, when we went no-till, we sold the chisel plow and field cultivator and all that. And we ended up buying a chisel plow again and a field finisher. And I've been kind of rotating through the acres. So especially if we're going to do any corn on corn, just this residue management thing is big. And if you can get that digester on and you roll those stalks under in the fall, man, it's the cake, man, in the spring. So we've been kind of alternating through a few fields. I would say every 3 years we try to at least roll it. And then the off year, we are just hitting it with that Brilliant Zone Commander. But if I could tell you guys, I mean, I paid, I believe, $10,000 for that Zone Commander, found it on an auction. Very low cost to get into, but we got to get that oxygen down in that root zone. It's just got to happen. So
yes, I mean, absolutely. And I mean, and we talk all about soil biology, right? Biologicals, they're kind of a trendy topic, but guess what? They're living organisms. We need oxygen to breathe. And you're 100% right. And something that I appreciate, Andy, is that, it's, and guys, we've got everybody listening here from all over the country. One size agriculture does not fit all. It doesn't even fit from field to field. And so your tillage practices and different things better than anybody else. But without a doubt, we have to be able to understand what's going on, right? If we're a no-till, dry broadcast is not our friend because we know that phosphorus is going to sit on the top. Marion Calmer says he's got a lot of videos. He's shown and he's proven that. Now, can you use cover crops and things to help speed that up? Absolutely. But now we've got other management issues, right? Residue and termination and soil temperature, just all sorts of things. And that's the joy of farming, right? We can never get bored. There's always something to look at and to go after. But making sure we have adequate oxygen, making sure, and once we bust through that hard pan, because we were the same, and what we were doing, and Andy was talking about having a soil penetrometer. Guys, if you don't have that, what you can do is you can have a post hole digger go down 30 inches, okay? Or if you've got like a backhoe or an excavator, dig a root pit, see what's going on. We've got field days coming up where we do a lot of that, and they teach us a lot. And you take a pocket knife and you stick it into the sidewall of the soil and you pull it up. And you're going to figure out really quick where we have a compaction zone. And so we're going to do that again on our farm to see, we busted through that 8-inch, that man-made plow layer that we've done with our tillage. But is there another one at 24 inches? It's going to take some diesel, man, and it's going to take some horsepower, and it's going to take some time. But again, at 3 feet, that's 36 inches. We're still only at 75%. We can get those, and we've got guys driving roots down 6, 8, 10 feet deep. That is how we're able to build our soil levels and to really have a tremendous year and to do so sustainably. And so I want to switch gears here really quick, Andy. We could talk for hours because I'm already not even halfway through some of the questions we had. But you mentioned something about nitrogen, okay, about adding more and getting a higher yield bump. Now, everybody on here knows that we are big proponents of reducing your nitrogen. More so, I say reducing your nitrogen use efficiency. How many pounds of nitrogen does it take for us to apply? How many bushels are we getting per pounds that we're applying? It's a better way to say that. When we started applying 140, 150 bushel corn, or 140, 150 pounds, getting 160 bushels, that's very close to a 1-to-1 ratio. That's expensive. Now we're at 130 to 140 pounds on our farm, and we're pulling 230, 240 plus bushel corn consistently. Okay. We've helped that ratio get significantly better. And I think we're going to blow it out of the water this year. But something that we talk about with nitrogen, guys, and I want to touch on this because it proves what Andy talked about, was that something that we learned in this meeting is we have two usable forms of nitrogen. We have ammonium, which is a positively charged, and nitrate, which is negatively charged. Nitrate, guys, is use it or lose it. Whereas ammonium, the plant can still utilize it and use it, but it sticks to the soil because why? Our soil is negatively charged. It's why electricians call it the ground. Our soil is negatively charged. And just remember magnets. It's going to help us a lot in soil chemistry. And so too much nitrate has been very much villainized. And it's true because later on in that plant's life, we actually need more ammonium. And too much nitrate can gum up the works. We can have oxidative stress. Too much can cause disease problems. Guys, over application of nitrogen is just a monster cause for disease. That's been well documented. But something that we learned, Purdue University actually did a study. And it did it to where they did 100% ammonium in a controlled, so the what we view as the good form, right? The NH4 plus, 100% nitrate. And then they did it to where, all things the same, just the difference in nitrogen. 25% nitrate and 75% ammonium. And then they did a 50-50. The highest yielding was the 50-50 mix, which I found super interesting. But what they say is because ammonium, NH4, will go to nitrate. I know I'm kind of getting into the weeds here, guys. I'm sorry. I'm a soil chemistry, a little bit of a geek here. But typically we don't ever have too much. So we want to make sure we have a quality stabilizer, which we work with, a quality stabilizer that keeps it in the ammonium form longer, but we still need that nitrate. So Andy, you saw huge bushel increases by adding more nitrogen. But now we know we want more ammonium later, and liquid Y-dropped UAN delivers that. That's why we love that as a source. I know it's more expensive. I respect that and I understand that, but the yield bumps are impressive. Did anything happen to your nitrogen use efficiency when you added more nitrogen?
Yeah, Sam, that's a super cool part. I always shoot for a 0.6 pound per bushel produced, right? So when we first come on with A Better Way to Farm, we were putting that 1-to-1 ratio on, and that wasn't our problem. But after a few years, we dropped down to that 130 pounds of actual N, but we put the conceal system on the planter, and we bought a set of Y drops. We dropped the N, but we put in a really great form of P and K. So our 31818 is 100% ortho food grade, right? And then we implemented that with our micros, which we've never done micros on our farm. Our boron levels were pretty much inexistent, but it took 3 years of doing that first before we could start cranking up that N. So basically, we were kind of capped right on that, 230 corn. The first few years we did it, we went from 190 to 230, made an awesome increase. Yeah. And I'm like, well, we have to try things as farmers, and I went in and I put in just a little bit more N. I cranked it up to about 155. The beauty is, yes, we used more nitrogen, but we kept that same nitrogen use efficiency number at 0.6. So the yield jumped 30 bushel on the corn and we kept that same number. So in my mind, what happens if now this year we're going to do some more trials where maybe we bump up to that 165, 170 pounds N. Where are we going to find that level in that where we start going the other direction? And we will find it. Too much N, we all know, it's not a good thing. But I think spacing it out, we're at 10 CEC on our farm. So the max we can put on is 100 pounds at a time. So we have to split up that nitrogen application. And what does that look like in a couple of years? Is it another wide drop pass? Is it, running more of our DCD stabilizer, at different stages?
Yep.
You always got to be learning.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And placement, guys, split application, that's been well documented. But something, we put some numbers to it at this class. By the time you hit silking in corn, which is R1, 63% of the total nitrogen has been taken up, which means we still need 37% left to go. Now, of that 37%, about a third, a little more, 38% is going to be remobilized from what the crop's already taken up. That's why we work so hard in season. Build a large vegetative factory. Obviously, that still matters. But we get into grain fill, we all know if the wheels fall off, if we don't get the rain, the yield just plummets. And this is why. And so we still have to come up with, that additional nitrogen to make sure that all nutrients, not just nitrogen, all nutrients, right? Potassium and sulfur are huge late. Even zinc, and that's something that we're going to be trying here going into it. Is coming. We've always done zinc with our in-furrow on our farm. And we're going to start trying to push it a little bit later. Still do the in-furrow, still have our foundation based off of that soil test, but we're going to be looking for maybe an early fungicide application or coming into adequate seed, coming into flowering, right? Coming into pollination, silking, and seed set. We're just going to see, man, because the data is there that it absolutely shows that. And so you came in later when that plant really needed it in the balanced form, because there's nitrate and ammonium, both forms you need in UAN. And I just think that crop needed to expend all of zero energy to utilize that nitrogen, right? And I really feel like that was something that was really, really, really cool. As we wrap up here, Andy, and I'm sure we'll be doing lots more of these because we could just keep going and going here. We are big on soil and tissue testing. Very big. It's the foundation. We are not going to make a recommendation for you or your farm until we know what you're dealing with, until we have a roadmap. Your money matters. We're not going to guess with it. We just will not. It would be a disservice to all of us. And so we work predominantly, we've got people ask all the time, can I just send it to my local lab? But we work predominantly with Midwest Laboratories out of Omaha, Nebraska. And we got the opportunity to tour that at this program. And we kind of saw why we work with Midwest Labs in Omaha. Was there anything in there that really, Andy, that you would say would stuck out or impressed you or helped you understand that, maybe not all labs are created equal?
Yeah, Sam, one thing I am thankful for, that there is scientists that love doing it, because that place made my brain hurt. I mean, it's ridiculous. That one room we were in, there was 15 of them computer things that squirts a little solution into the soil test. And it was like he said, what was it, like $8 million? $8 million in that room and machines. I mean, I could not even fathom how much money they got invested in this. But one thing that was really interesting is when they take the soil trays in there, they have, tests. And they always have one that they put up against everything else just to make sure that it's reading the same. They know what it reads. They want to make sure it reads the same. So the quality control there, was just on point. And another really interesting thing too, when we first started the tour, they had their own, I don't know what you want to call it, factory fab room where they're making some of their own, tools that they use that they can speed things up or make it better for the farmer. I mean, when you look at the cost of a complete soil test at, the one that we use as a staple is $24. It's like, man, I'm not going to balk at that price at all to learn that information after seeing how much money them people got invested in that.
Well, and it's just, we make very important decisions based off of our soil test data. That's the way it is. And Midwest Labs, they hold themselves to a standard that's unbelievable. Like we were in the metals lab, right, to where they study heavy metals. We've talked about that. Why are heavy metals bad? They're cell disruptors. They're DNA disruptors. We don't want them in our bodies. We don't want them in our plants. We don't want them in our fertilizer to concentrate themselves in the grain to get into us. We just don't need that. And the guy, you could just tell looking at it, the guy was brilliant, right? And we were like, so how many of these machines are in here? He's like 20. We're like, okay, like how many do other labs typically have? 3 at the most. Okay. And it's like, but why is that? It's because during peak season, they can handle 30,000 soil samples a day. I can't fathom that. And they test everything there, and it was really cool. But something that stuck out to me, guys, we are big on the kind of soil test you take. A Malic 3 soil test is super common in the industry. Let me tell you why, because we learned this. And I got this right. This isn't coming from us. This is right from the guy from Midwest Labs. Okay. Malic 3s are fast and they're inexpensive because they use one extraction method for everything you want to read. Okay. You can crank through it really quick. The problem is that acid is so strong that they use to extract those numbers, especially in manganese, it's pulling readings that are not plant available. And so it's not an accurate representation. And so we've heard people say, yeah, but it's just once you understand what the numbers mean, you can adjust your management around them. I respect that. I understand that. But we were talking to the gentleman from Midwest Labs, and he said the variance in the readings that we see in a Malic 3 soil test, we have just not been able to directly correlate that to yield. And that's the whole thing, right? They said the swings in the data are so inconsistent that we cannot give you a definitive answer that if you have this value, that means you need this much left to get to this yield increase. Now, using the soil tests that with the DTPA extraction for the micronutrients that we use, we have that correlated to yield data. And guys, that's just the whole thing. I'm not here bragging or saying, hey, haha, we're better, but we need to have certainty in the data that we're using to make large financial decisions on our farming operation, without a doubt. And this test does that. And that's why we partner and we work with Midwest Labs. It was a great program. We learned tons of stuff. But again, the whole thing is just education, backing, and all of the things that went into making the system that we use today. As we close here, Andy, I appreciate you taking the time. Do you have any other final thoughts or things you'd like to share with the growers as we come into the end of this season? Maybe we have awesome potential. Maybe we missed the mark a little bit and we're looking to do a little bit better next year. What would you say to our audience?
Yeah, one thing, it is noisy, man, on social media. We talk about microbes and, there's bugs in the jug and all this stuff. And it's like one thing that really stuck out to me, and I love to try new things and do trials, but this bug in the jug thing, man, it's scary. What if you introduce something that is not native to your soil and, fights against your good bugs? Let's just work with what we got. Chicken litter, fantastic. Run 2 ton of litter on and a good quality liquid system. You'll blow the roof off this thing. Get them stalks broke down in the fall. Use what you already got. That's probably my biggest takeaway, just because we all love trying something. We hope it's as easy as that easy button and dumping, this magical juice that turns you into a unicorn or whatever it does and throw it in the tank and it just makes you money. And it's like, man, I wish it was that easy. And I used to be one of those guys, and it's really not that hard. You can drive a Mazda, you can drive, the high country. Start with a quality soil test. That's basically it. We can beat that to death. Tissue test every, 3 to 4 weeks on your farm. Try to build a trend line so you can make better decisions when that planter rolls next spring. That's one thing with tissue testing. We don't necessarily use that data to go out and hurry up and do a foliar feed and try to correct it. But it helps us for the next year to either fine tune that in-furrow mix that we're running, or, on that herbicide pass, something as simple as running a pint of manganese with it, pint of boron and some sugar. Just sit and feed that biology that you guys already got, because it's there.
Absolutely. Andy, I know you're a busy guy. You got some fungicide to get ready that sprayer to prep up as we were screaming through it. And so I want to thank you, man, for the time. This was a lot of fun. Like I said, I imagine we'll be doing quite a few more of these just kind of conversations just about what we're seeing, what we're trying, what's working and what's not. For everybody listening, we thank you so much that you allowed us to be just a small part of your day. Like I said, our goal is always to bring value to you, whether you decide to work with us or not. So guys, try something new. Reach out if you have any questions. We'd love to chat. We would love to just see what we can do next year to help us improve and to get better. And as always, we hope you have a better day.